I really love fields of wildflowers, but if you're stood up and taking them from even a few meters away, they'll become absolutely tiny on the picture. You'll hardly even notice them. So another alternative approach is to get down and low and get really close to them. Fields of wildflowers can provide really nice colour in the foreground of a landscape shot, but don't stand up all the time to take them because the flowers will end up really tiny on the bottom of the frame. It can be a much more exciting and a more dynamic shot if you crouch down to ground level and turn it into a macro shot of the flowers. So that's what I've done here. I'm on the floor, unfortunately, but it allows me to get really close. I've looked around this field to find some flowers that are in good condition, and I really like this bunch of yellow flowers here. So what I'm going to do is get pretty close to them. That distance will vary depending on what kind of phone, what kind of lens, and even what kind of mode you're using. So do experiment, get as close as you can while still getting a sharp result. Now the thing you have to watch out for on a day like today is motion from the wind. This flower is moving left and right and back and forth, and that's going to result in some motion blur on some of the pictures, and it's also going to come in and out of focus. So the trick is to take a lot of pictures and hopefully one of them will look all right. Or you could just wait for a slight pause in the wind where it calms down a little. The trick is to find out how close your particular camera or lens can focus, and it'll depend on the phone or the mode that you're in. I'm also experimenting with the portrait mode on this phone because this will allow me to blur the background for a different kind of effect. There's already going to be quite a lot of blurring because I'm so close to the subject. The other thing to watch out for is this rather obvious motion that I've got. It's a very windy day, and that's going to cause two problems. First of all, the flower is moving back and forth, so that's going to cause some motion blur. But secondly, it's going to be moving in and out of focus. So as always, the trick is to take as many pictures as possible, and hopefully one of them will be sharp. So I found a good looking wild flower here, and I've come down to its height, and that's involved lying down on the ground. It's not very comfortable, but that's what you have to do for your art, right? Now, when you're very close to this is a macro environment, so you've got to be really careful to focus on the subject. So give it a tap and take a picture. Now, under these windy conditions, you can see it is really moving around the frame. And that's a problem because sometimes it's going to be out of focus and sometimes it's going to be blurry just through motion. But if you just keep taking picture after picture, you will get one that looks fine. And it gives this landscape view a completely different dimension because we have this lovely foreground element, the wildflower. You may also want to try portrait mode if your phone has one, because this will provide greater blurring in the background. But do experiment because different modes and different lenses have got different close-up capabilities. If you're too close, your camera is not going to be able to focus properly. Okay, let's have a look at some of these photos. This one here, this stalker's blown into view. I'm not that keen on that. This one looks okay, although the lighting is not great. This one to me looks much better. If we switch between them, you can see this one's quite flat. There's no direct light on the flowers, but on this one, a little bit of sunlight is shining on the flowers. If I zoom in, they're also sharp, which is a bonus on a day like today. And you have this separation between the sharp flowers in the foreground and the blurred landscape in the background. I also like the different layers in this image. We have a layer here of greenery. This is the field. Then we've got some darker fields in this middle stripe, and then we have the sky and the clouds in the top stripe. So we have three main layers with a nice, sharp, colourful subject in the foreground.